Hello there, Star Wars toy fans. This is Jim, and welcome back to my channel. Well, the subject of this video happens to be the second series of the retro Return of the Jedi that Hasbro has put out. So let's get into the video. I received this for Christmas of 2023. Now, it was supposed to come in the fall for my birthday, but it never arrived. My wife had it on order, and it came just, I think, late November, early December. And there were really only three figures that I wanted out of that set of six. And the three were Yak Face, which I don't have a Kenner version of, Mon Mothma, which was a new exclusive figure, and then the Emperor's Royal Guard. I only had one as from my childhood, and I wanted a pair to put on either side of the Death Star elevator. Now, the other three, my son happened to get. And you may notice that we only see one Admiral Akbar. Well, he couldn't find it in time for this video, but he did happen to have his Wicket and Gamoran guard on hand. Now, before I get into a comparison of the figures, let me show you what the latest Star Wars Insider magazine has to say about the retro figures. Now, if you watched my latest video on the retro figures that Hasbro has produced for the Book of Boba Fett, I already discussed this topic here, but if you haven't, this directly connects with this retro Return of the Jedi set. And so in this article, they have interviewed someone from Hasbro, and it says to achieve the high quality, accurate reproductions of the original iconic action figures, Rife, I guess that's how you pronounce his name, and his team go through several stages during the development of a retro product. Fundamentally, our process is to take an old figure and make the best high-resolution 3D scan that we can from it. But that scan is never perfect, so we go back in and clean it up. Then when we look at any small details that we think we can update, like the fact that some original figures never seem to be able to hold their weapons very well, we'll tweak the hand so that way it'll hold things better than it used to. We also ensure that the materials we use are correct so that the figure feels right. That's my personal mission statement. Does it feel right? If I pick up a figure, does it feel like the figure I played with from my childhood? It's a tactile experience. So what we're getting into here then is, do these actually feel like the original Kenner figures? Well, let's go ahead and take a look at the Emperor's Royal Guard. Now, you can go to Dean's channel at All Things 80s, and he reviewed this last month and did an exceptional job of that. So you may get a little more detail than what I'm going to give, especially on Admiral Akbar, since I don't have the comparison here. But here is the retro Emperor's Royal Guard. And when you compare it to my childhood one, you can see that it's a really close duplication of it. But it seems like the way the light's picking this up, that the cape appears a little bit brighter red, but really it doesn't look like that from my vantage point. The weapon, both of them, the guys hold it really well. The vintage Kenner one on the right happens to be a little bit darker gray, just slightly, but you can compare the two and they're really, really, really close. Now, you can obviously see at the feet here, Hasbro has their little logo and their silk screen type stamp. And the fabric, this I would say is probably a little bit thicker on the Kenner, but even the weave is pretty darn close. It's just a lighter made fabric. And you can look on the inside of that, and you can see that it's got the split in the back. Now, of course, it doesn't say Kenner 1985 on it, but it's really a remarkably well done reproduction. And as far as the figure goes, it does feel like the original. Now, the weapon, I would debate that on the weapons. It's fairly close feel with the plastic. I would say that the Kenner ones have a little bit more stiffness to it than, say, the Hasbro ones do. Now, I won't get into Admiral Akbar since I don't have that comparison, and I don't have Yak Face. That's one of 5 figures vintage figures I don't have in my collection. So those of you that are lucky enough to have him, maybe you can write in the comments what you think of this reproduction. So I'm just thrilled to at least have something like this. Now, Stan Solo produced one. I never purchased it. Simple reason, I just wasn't on my big want list. But this one, because I wanted Mon Mothma and it came with it, I thought, well, that's really cool. I'm more for a person, I don't mind reproduction ones. I'm perfectly fine with it. But if I want something in my collection that actually says Kenner, then I will go out and get that. So anyway, here we go. You can look at the bottom. You can obviously see that it's not a Kenner product, but I think it looks great. And it feels like the original Kenner plastic. Now let's compare the weapon here, this staff. Now this is the one on my left hand's from my childhood. It's got silver paint. I painted all my weapons silver at the time to differentiate that from my brother's. So you can see it's a little bit lighter gray. We'll get a close up there. Silver never quite came all the way off some of my weapons. But I think, they did a nice job of that, the guys at Hasbro. Okay, well, let's take a look now at Wicket. Put that weapon. He holds the weapon really well, by the way. And they fit really nicely on this display stand. I'm really pleased with that. Now, this is my vintage Wicket. I actually got this when I was in my 20s at a toy show. I got most of the Ewoks then. So this is my son's here in my right hand. And the hood is a little bit different type of plastic. The one on my son's is not quite so rubbery. This is the vintage Kenner one is very flexible. This is a much stiffer type of latex plastic. Maybe it's not latex. I don't know. Maybe it's ABS. But it's not quite as rubbery. This is extremely flexible and almost has like a sticky feel to it. If you guys know what I'm talking about with the vintage Kenner ones, this doesn't. It feels, I don't know, more like the AT-AT, I guess. Now we can look at the paint jobs here, and the color's fairly close. This actually has a little bit thicker paint, better coverage. The eyes are a little bit darker. It appears that it was molded in a darker brown than, say, the original Kenner was. You can look at the feet, and you can see where the Hasbro differentiation is. Look on the back, and both of them have some stamps on the back there. Well, let's see if we can get a close-up here. And you can see the Kenner one on the back, and then the Hasbro one probably is a little bit blurry. But the Kenner one says Lucasfilm 1984 Taiwan, and this one says Vietnam on it. Can't quite make out a Lucasfilm Hasbro. Okay, so there's that. And now when you compare the weapons, let's go ahead and take a look at the spear. So the one on my left is the Kenner one. Pretty darn close. I mean, even to the point of that indent. Now, the indent's a little bit deeper on the Hasbro one. As far as the material goes, it's exactly this, feels the same. You even have some of the seam line, the mold seam line on there. Now, I suppose that the guys that that go to Imperial Gunnery are going to have to put this up there as a variation if they haven't done it already. A little bit darker, deeper type of brown, but nonetheless, I would say that this this could pass off as an authentic original weapon if you did not know any better. And both guys hold the weapons really well. And it feels like, the Hasbro one feels like a real Kenner figure. Now, let's take a look at Mon Mothma. Of course, Kenner did not reproduce this when I was a kid, and I'm glad that they did. She really deserved to be put into a figure. Sits really nicely, looks like a vintage figure. You can see that the legs split evenly with the skirt, similar to like Obi-Wan or say the Emperor. Head turns, typical Kenner likeness. She has a Princess Leia gun, which is interesting. So let's take a look at that and compare it to my vintage gun here. That happens to be an extra one I have in my collection. I'm not sure how I acquired that, but you can see where there's the silver paint there at the handle right there. This is a very stiff plastic, and it's slightly blue. It almost looks like maybe Leia Bespin. This is, of course, black. And you have the sight there on top. It's a little bit taller on the Hasbro one, but the plastic is, this one's really stiff, and the plastic is very flexible, almost akin to, well, not quite as rubbery as some of the new Hasbro vintage line, but very, very similar to that. Now, of course, she holds this really well. I don't know that Mon Mothma used a weapon during Return of the Jedi. Really, Akbar should have had the gun, and she should have had the staff, pointing at the screen and so forth. Okay, and the pegs are clear in the back of the heel of the dress there. Okay, now let's take a look at the Gamorrean guard. Now, the Gamorrean guards are really, really close when you look at that. You can tell, of course, on the feet. There's the Hasbro version on my left hand. Maybe I should make these consistent, so we'll have the Kenner on the left. It's a little bit glossier plastic here in the Hasbro. A little bit less detailed. I would say that the detail is more refined here in the Kenner, which is surprising. They got technology to fix that. Different detail in the cufflinks. Is that the right word? Belt looks fine. There is stamping there, Hong Kong and Lucasfilm 1983. There is some stamping there on the leg, same spot, says Vietnam, Lucasfilm, Hasbro. Okay, so it's still there. Yeah, I mean, it's a really, really striking likeness. Now, of course, the yellowness of the horns and the teeth and the eyes is a little bit different. The eyes look to have a little bit more different shape, in my opinion. These are, and maybe it's just the way the paint is highlighting things. Now let's take a look at the axe. Okay, so the one on my right hand is the Hasbro one. The one on the left, you can see there's some silver paint left over from my childhood. Very, very close, even to the notches within the blade itself. Yeah, really nicely done. And it feels exactly the same. It's not rubbery. It's a nice stiff plastic that Hasbro produced. And of course, I would be remiss if I didn't talk about the flimsy cards that they came with. And I don't have to show you every one, I don't think. Maybe you'll be satisfied with just seeing one of these. So this is the Emperor's Royal Guard card. Guard card, made a rhyme, and it don't chime. It has the 40th anniversary there, right there on the top. You can see there on the back, it's really not all that exciting, just tells you what came in the box. The box art, well, oops, there went the guard. The box art's nicely done, but it's got these worn edges. I'm not a big fan of that. I don't know about you guys, but just like, why? Why? So there you can see all 6 figures. End cap just says Return of the Jedi. Boom, boom. Back side's the same way. And then on this side, you can see they've got some screen captions of each of the figures that you're going to get. And then all the copyright licensing safeties, don't swallow the weapons, that kind of thing on it. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video. Please give it a thumbs up if you did. And if you're new to the channel, please feel free to subscribe. I enjoy all the comments you guys leave. And we're getting close to 1,000 subscribers, which is awesome. Taken 10 years, but we're almost there. Take care. Have a great day, and we'll see you on a future video.